everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 10/28/25. But before I get to anything, I now open this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda, so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent or mischievous type beings to be swept away, so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say so be it.
And so be it. This is actually quite interesting. This actually popped up in a session today, as a matter of fact. And this is the subject you may have heard us talk about it on our Patreon, and I can always attach that other conversation as well, about do we work in our dreams or working in our dreams? We're doing some kind of anything. And in the previous conversation, we talked about how it's not always necessary. Sometimes we get stuck in these repetitive loops and we feel we have an obligation to do something. So therefore, we project ourselves into other realms and do all this unnecessary work. But there is a bit of this that is actually beneficial. How we go and do things in our dreams. So, wow, somebody didn't want me to say this. Okay. During a session today, I will say this, unless this person wants me to mention their name, hopefully the session can get posted. That's going to be interesting if you'll let me. You're more than likely seeing this. What happened was this person is into animal rescue, and in her dream went to a farm-like place where she saw a barn that had all these animal parts, piled up in the back, just like legs, things of that nature, heads, part bits and pieces, a rack of ribs, wolf like grabbing something. Well, there was also animals that were being unkept and neglected, and some killed for a particular chemical that was in them. It was almost like an adrenochrome-ish type of operation. What ended up happening, though, is that when you're doing some kind of remote viewing or you're doing some kind of bilocating or something like that, you can literally mark a spot on a map. If you can determine where you are, you could literally put up a flare and say, here. And you could literally reach up and guide attention down to that spot. Any quantum, travel can be traced, and it can be traced anyway. You have to really wantonly shield yourself to not have that happen. But if you really wanted to have it happen, it's not that hard. So you literally can light up like a torch and point to a spot. There was a case where a young girl or a young woman was killed in a national park, and the boyfriend wasn't being too forthcoming. I remember with this same person remote viewing that case, putting a flag or a flare up, and about a day or so later, about 24 hours later, actually it was less than, it was about 12 or 13 hours later, they found the body. So with this person was walking around this environment, ran into another guy. They both got into a car. She felt this guy needed to get out of there in a hurry. He wanted out of there. I felt they were more slaves in that operation. I looked into it, saw some almost like a meth lab type thing going on. Kind of like they're extracting a chemical from the animals, and they torture them, kind of like in China when they want to extract the meat because of the fear makes it better, or something like that, some stupid, horrible reason like that. What ended up happening here? The concept that I found out was entangled or intertwined in this was walk-ins. I mean, people have all heard of walk-ins. The New Age metaphysical movement called it a soul exchange. That is not accurate at all. It is basically another soul entering, your physical form with you to help you out through a specific spot that you're in. My mother had that with my father, where another soul stepped in and then stepped out. Made sure that she could uh, kick him out when needed. So in this case, though, this was where she had stepped into, in her dreams, stepped into someone else, and that someone else, basically with her holding the space versus the other person that was more afraid, and the other guy too, that got them the incentive to get out of there and escape. And those people will more than likely send other people there. And this looked to be a spot in California, deep in the back areas of Napa Valley somewhere, or something like that. I'm not saying Napa Valley. My part of my SSP stuff was in a spot there, so I just automatically said it. But I've done this in dreams too, and so has Joanna. And she remembers one where, or I remember one where I saw her in the middle of the night leaving her body and going out the window, and she said she was rescuing kids in cages. See the difference here, or see all this that's going on here, both animals and kids being rescued. What's going on? Nothing is hidden. No matter if something's classified a criminal activity, it does not matter. Everything's one anyway. So of course everything's connected, so there are no secrets. So therefore, in your dreams, you're gravitating towards either something that you're being overtaxed by constantly having a fictitious problem coming up over and over and over again to drain you, or make you tired when you wake up because you've been out working all night, or you're finding something legit that the Dreamtime invasions, again, and the other stuff are in the way of. Just like the Dreamtime invasions block you rectifying the dark night of the soul and past life junk that you have to deal with. And, I shouldn't say have to, need to in certain specific instances that are not mirroring the unnecessary junk from other lifetimes. I should specify more. But the other thing is they'll send you on a padded list so you're not actually doing this other work that that you are meant to do. This, though, I found out the mix between that and walk-ins it's exactly the same. I thought it was primarily coming from an ET source or a dimensional source before, or from spirit world, which some of those are, yes. Telepathic contact, and possessions and oppression. Channeling technically falls under possession, but the good kind. Depends, I suppose, what you're doing. If it's not true benevolence with no conflicting agendas, of course not. But with this is a form of walk-in, I came to find out. And it was actually quite interesting. And even in another scenario where I looked into a base, and I would not recommend this ever doing, and I rarely ever have to do anything like this. In fact, I never do anymore. This was back during the pandemic, and there was somebody's SSP altar that was, or their physical version from a 20 back that was still running parallel on a base. Remember going in there, looking around without the aliens noticing. A particular person was standing in a giant warehouse refrigerator full of vaccines. And I remember taking control of the guy to turn a bottle around to look at the label. It said Vioxin on it. I remember that. And this guy automatically knew he was being psychically messed with. It's like that scene in Doctor Who where they show this guy in a base a psychic piece of paper. He says, we've all had some measure of psychic training to know a blank piece of paper or a piece of psychic paper, something like that. That was a true statement. That's what this guy did. That's why you have to be careful and never do that. The reason I'm saying this is you can literally jump into those people and literally control them like a puppet. If you don't like what these people on the bases and these secret projects are doing, they literally have no walls between you and them. But they do have defenses. I will say this. So if you want them to stop doing these things, you literally have the power to stop them from doing it. So just saying, in your dreams, you literally have the power to stop them from doing it. And I wouldn't suggest it, but there are some people that have come into this world that this is their path. And I have seen this time and again. Now, the reason I bring all of this up is because there was another part to another dream where this person was in the African Serengeti, and there was a baby elephant walking up to her and other animals. And this ended up being an existence where she was very protective of animals on in that part of Africa. and felt that she needed to keep protecting their sovereignty from lifetime after lifetime after this. And so therefore, in the now, projecting in dreams to these spots where they're being harmed. The same goes with children, the same goes with anybody, really. And depends who they are. Well, who did we have in a previous episode that you saw? The return to Williamsburg. That was Edward Hicks. He painted the Peaceable Kingdom, who showed up to talk about how he wanted to talk about peace, the peaceful kingdom, and all the animals, like from Noah's Ark, all of these things. Why he was drawn to these things? Because he was in lifetimes where he was around, where basically he was around this. And I came to find this out during the dream. We also found out that I'm not going to mention the person's name, but I found out that that William Penn has been reincarnated here at the moment. So with somebody that's well known, and is continuing the same Quaker-like work that he did in the past in trying to bring people together in a peaceful unity. I will not bring up the person's name unless I get authorization. But just know the same identical work is being continued. That was done then by William Penn, and also with Edward Hicks and his Peaceful Kingdom, when he depicted William Penn and the unity from the generation before. And so I found out that he came back to continue the work. So I wanted to give that update from the previous episode that we had, which I found pretty interesting. So, Joanna, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think it's, again, bringing some of these things up because I feel that a lot of people just don't know themselves, or they don't know why they're here. They don't know what they're doing. They don't feel like they're contributing. And it's a great concept because, again, I think most people will never know until they leave to do a reflection back and see all the different things that they actually did accomplish. And again, as we said, not necessarily every night, but your soul doesn't need to sleep. Your body needs to sleep. And so, it's a concept for people to get that, you could be working and doing all kinds of wonderful things, that you just do not recall because your soul is busy doing things as well. When your body is actually sleeping. Of course, we've said it before, all of the regeneration and different things that you need the rest for, that your mind is doing. But I think sometimes your soul doesn't have to be present for some of that to occur. You can actually go off and do things. So again, consider this and just know that maybe your life is way more full of activity than you actually, realize, and know that even though times can get harsh and you don't really know and you feel why I'm here, you could be doing some great works and you won't know about it until you go back and review. So from the only thing that I can say, especially people, there is this drive. If I'm somebody else, let me know, because I feel like I'm nothing right now. It's just not a true statement that everyone here on this planet,
Is doing something.
is doing something and is a somebody. And, just know that, I hope that's something that you can just take to your heart, that it really is that way. And so nobody is a nothing. And, everyone has contribution to the energetics and to a movement forward of the way that we all want to see the path open up for humanity now. And that, know that you do belong here, even though you may not feel like you're contributing a lot from the current perspective you sit. So just know that. So I do find it's interesting. Like I said, I think during sleep time, I had an interesting weird dream last night that I always get up and revoke it because I'm like, what was that about? Mm-hmm. Last night, Chris and I sometimes have times to talk about what did you dream about last night, and sometimes we're busy and we don't. But it was just weird before I woke up. It's like I was in my house. It's like I was doing remote work, like I was working from home, let's say, and was quite busy. And then all of a sudden, other folks were coming into my house and, they like wanted to work there, let's just say. And I thought the whole thing was funny. I thought, oh my God, don't let this be some invasion of people now coming into my energies or whatever. So I did decide, I'm not getting entanglements that, or am I noticing people coming in? But, but we have all kinds of dreams for all kinds of reasons. And a lot of times if you get good rest, you're also problem solving and you wake up in the morning and you seem to know the answer of something you couldn't figure out the day before. So, just know that everybody is actually quite busy in their lives.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And also to keep yourself grounded at night, have hematite around you, either a bracelet, not the magnetic kind, the regular kind, or have an orb. I have one on the nightstand. I also have the bedside pieces I made that had hematite in them, and I also have an amethyst to protect dream time as well. There was a more interesting one that I had back in Arizona, whereas this was during the pandemic time frame, and I go to sleep, and in the dream sequence, there is an older Chinese lady in a mask standing next to the bed, and I remember waking her up there, and she turns around and goes, "Oh my God," and we went to wherever this person was, and she was guiding us back to a spot in China where they had literally locked down people, but they weren't letting them get supplies. They just let them die. And this lady was showing us this. As she was transitioning, I noticed, her she was getting younger and everything. In that, I believe she was also saying it had happened in a previous age there too. That wasn't the first time they had locked people down and done things over there. Well, I wake up from that, and who's standing next to the bed? The old Chinese lady in the mask, like physically here. And as much as you know about something, or you'll say, "Oh, that'll be cool if that happens." No, it's not cool. So the same as during the pandemic, seeing 7 or 8 people in respirators and gowns and masks and stuff at the end of the bed asking if they're dead. That was like, no, that topped creepy during the pandemic. But then there was also the Chinese lady. But the point is, in dreams is where this began, and doing the work to have all this happen. There could be some context there that you don't have the context here for. Like sometimes you're getting retaliated against and you don't know why. It could be something you did there. So I wanted to actually bring that up. I was also giving Edward enough time to try to connect, because earlier, yeah, if you want to go back and see our most recent episode from this, that was about the return to Williamsburg. Go watch that, about the museum and about the wing about the peaceful kingdom and Edward Hicks. You will definitely see all of that there. So I find it interesting that he came in again. He was literally during this session and during all this today. This is still pre-Halloween when this is being recorded. 10/28/25. Still during the Samhain. He was the only one. Spirit and elements of spirit were the only ones that could be reached. No ET sources, from Isaac to Elena Vessa to forest people to nobody. It has been a proverbial dead zone for at least 3 days now. So, except bits and pieces, I'll get somebody and then they have to withdraw. But today, zilch. So the closer you get to Halloween, and again, you'll be seeing this sometime in the middle of probably November, but or beginning middle November. So, Edward, are you around? Okay. Yes, I suppose it would help if I had one of your paintings in here, but I'm not going to heist one of those. So, okay, because you connect to your own work. That's also true. No matter what time frame the person's from, they can connect to their own work. Uh, and because he penned it or he painted it, I know painting's the right word. Thank you. You're being a smartass. Okay, let's see. He's had time to kind of brew in spirit for a little bit, so he's expanded a little bit more. I almost didn't recognize him because he's gotten larger. And I always tell people when you're accessing the much larger version, of the person. You're not always seeing the forest for the trees. You're looking for a thumbprint like this that could be this large. And you're seeing one little thumb-sized area of it, but you don't know. Imagine if you were seeing a much larger thumb and you're only seeing the lines that were here and you weren't seeing the totality of the print. Or, I always say it's like the guy looking for the giant in the woods and he sits on the giant's toe and he doesn't know there's a giant there. And then he finds out. It's like that. You don't know. So I didn't recognize him at first. And then I saw the animals show up. I saw the whole peaceful kingdom thing forming. I'm like, oh, this is Edward. Okay. So, okay. I'm well aware they sell prints of your work somewhere. I will have to look at that. Look for that. Helps if it's his face. Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure I can't take your portrait off the wall in the museum. I'm pretty certain they would frown upon that. So, I know you're giving your permission, but they would not, and they currently own it. So, yeah. Okay. Uh, okay. Edward, there's a little bit of distortion too, quite a bit of distortion, in fact. So, it's off that way. Can we? Oh, okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. Oh, a little strong, but okay. I want it stronger, so okay. I wished to do this conversation this time because I've actually come and gone since the last time we've encountered. Yes, it would seem from a human perspective that I've expanded, but I am complete, if this makes sense. Yes, you have encountered me in dreams, both of you, while you're off doing your work in your sleep, but you've not recognized the topography or format. And until she gives her permission, I will just say she also was uh, a family member of mine then. She took care of me when I was a child there. Excuse the energies are a bit much for his front here. So I will I will do questions.
So I guess I am curious, is there anything specific you did want to talk about today? If it's regarding, dreams or, what specifically you really wanted to come in? So what do you really want to talk about to share with everyone?
Yes, the dreams, dream walking, and also you know about the Dreamtime invasions, which are quite prolific, unfortunately, right now. But the artistry, I will say, this has to do centered more about how I did things. I brought through the work that I needed to anchor in the time of peace. William Penn was doing what he needed to do and still does now. And he is correct. He has come back in to finish the work, to complete from what he took from that age and skip over some of the distortions in between then and now and turn back the clock. He would say turn back the clock. But it is really, it's happening there and it's happening here. Everything everywhere all at once, he would say. But within dreams, our artistry takes flight. Our creativity, if uncultivated here, begins to churn. But it also begins to pace and become uncomfortable. That is your soul wanting an expression outlet. And also, if you are not able to get out of a certain, not necessarily just a dilemma, but unable to do a thing here within your dreams, if you need to express that, you become what you know as a walk-in and express it through another that happens to either A, be a member of soul family, B, another avatar of your oversoul, or C, that agreement was made pre-birth to do these things like what was said about that dream in order to bring about an advancement of some kind. Sometimes people waywardly wander, and he said the hematite fixes some of these things. Yes, in some cases, yes, of course, worn or not, it's quite powerful, quite a powerful stone. But and the more specific thing I wanted to say was more artistry. Whatever your passion is, from writing to painting, as dear Vincent said when he came through about living in your creative passion. This is paramount right now. You must, how can I put this? Break your regular routine and create, even amidst all that is going on. Excuse me. The energies are clearing in this space. Yawning usually means energy frequency change. Whatever is allowing a blockage within the self shows up in the dreams, and therefore some entities will latch on to this and cycle it. And cycle those thoughts, even you call them narratives in the head and the thoughts, and cycling thoughts. In others call them cycling thoughts in the waking world. But that can turn into repetitive dreams, or what he also called the padded list, where you're being sent out on dubious things in dreams as well. Not to mention dreamtime invasions, being chased and whatnot. But the artistry, or if something you hold back can become a haunting, a poltergeist, you say, something that reflects back, or the soul, the creative spark, stops talking or stops sparking. When this happens, someone is more stagnant. This stagnation now cannot occur. If something about yourself needs to be expressed, by all means, express it. Express it loudly. And I'm not saying in a negative political way. I'm saying to be yourself and whomever you wish to be. Express this in its most raw form or in its most simplistic form. Whichever form you wish to take, that is the thing you must do. Whatever that part of you is, become this and only this. Yes, I know your working world doesn't always account or seemingly not account for a lot of these things. Of course, you're what he calls a slave system, but we had these things in my time too. It's not a 21st century invention. I just put it that way. We had our things we didn't like to do either, but at the same time, you must be able to become this on your own. People always want a situation to change before they do these things. And then what do they see? They see an elderly face looking them back in the mirror. No, this is not what needs to be. What needs to be is your expression by whatever that form is to take.
And many people here have tried to encourage people, saying you need to walk the manifestation.
Yes, yes.
So you really, the goal is now is to be in the present moment what you want it to be. You personally need to be it, and then hopefully the energies with that you're putting out then will start to affect the things that are around you to match the frequency that you are living at. Not in the frequency, if you're feeling stuck, that you're putting out that stuck energy, but that basically, what is it that I need to look like, act like, feel like in order to change the energies around me. And you agree, I'm sure right now from your perspective looking at it, it's been wild. It's like, how high can that pot be turned up with a poor frog sitting in it before, things really, get crazy for everybody. But I can certainly see how right now that people are feeling a bit stagnated. I can understand that. I'm sure you can too.
Absolutely. This expression, if it is bound up, will take multiple forms. From restlessness to emotional instability to even medical conditions. Like he has his blood pressure, other things too. I'm not saying pure stagnation would do this either, but I'm just saying these things can manifest also from other lifetimes as well, where there is a mission that is supposed to be continuing, or a marker that is supposed to be met here. You would call these soul missions. That's more of your metaphysical New Age community that came up with this term, but it happens to be an accuracy to the oversoul coming in to do something at a particular time and go afterwards. An oversoul chooses its mission. Your Frank Frazetta came in and spoke about this as well. And also, at this point in time, I am actually going to step aside. He is one that wishes to speak currently. So, the artistry passes the torch to a different era of art. So, he has not been around in some time, or so he thought. No, he's actually been around you off and on. Even amidst all the chaos and all of the expressionless moments, I will pass this torch on to him at this time. I thank you. Last we was taught, I do believe I said the same as Edward here. The expressionist form, the art of the writ, the art of the drawing, the art of the even the naked female form, like I did, has meaning. I believe I said, in order to break a cycle, one must actually do its opposite and get on the train you were meant to be on. Not that the other stuff you're doing is not. There is a bit of artistry that must persist, must be honored, and must be seen, captured, photographed, written, and or even with your new AI marvels. Even utilizing styles like mine or even Edward's. I don't mind. Neither does he. As long as there's fun to be had with it. Now, if it takes over the other thing, yeah, there is a problem. But balance in all things, and I am in support of the evolution of the arts, and so is he. There are many others as well that wish to see this occur. Doesn't matter what style of that art it takes, doesn't matter what it manifests as, it must always remain. Even Vincent sends his regards at this moment.
So I guess you guys are coming through tonight because you must see, in general, with humanity, I guess you would call it a big stifling type of
Yes.
effect going on.
Yes, on the verge of a renaissance period, on the verge of a new creative age. People will have had enough of their art being taken from them, even though, again, I support the emergence of the creative AI. But at the same time, people will have had enough and rebalance these things and have a renaissance period. People will have had enough of, say, their photography not being recognized. For instance, thanks to your Jeffrey Epstein, for instance, people scoffed at the female form in photographs for a while. They feel the government now feels it necessary to lock that down again. This will change. This will definitely change. But some people have been convinced now by the emphasis on the evil that some people believe there is no good there anymore. Wrong. You are now on the verge of a creative renaissance.
So it's an interesting, because there's an old saying, basically, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Uh-huh.
So and that's an interesting concept either, because I have to tell you, and again, I'm only bringing this up of periods where you feel you're so lost, the darkest before the dawn. But it's so funny, I was speaking about this to somebody at the work, I think it was today or yesterday. We're also bringing up, about suicide, for example. People do not commit suicide when they've hit rock bottom. People commit suicide when they're on the way up, but it can't come quick enough.
Yeah.
So I think from this conversation, I guess I just want to bring that up because it sounds like, people in general, and I think you're alluding to it, you guys are, that really society right now is hitting a rock bottom of that stagnation.
Yes.
And that there's going to be the internal fire that's going to melt this and start to bring it up, because it really is the creativity in general of humanity is a part of what makes us human.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting so tampered down. There's only one way but to burst out of it in general.
Yes, and burst out of it shall. But this is why also you're seeing the stifling of people also being against AI, because they know that will stifle. But also the people that know how to balance it are also being yelled at. So therefore there's some extra overage from the other crowd, you see, too. So you're going to see the pushback over here. The reason this is happening on this side is because there needs to be a pushback over here. There must absolutely be a pushback. Also, people will begin to live in their own little communities again, be able to have a small town or a small area in which then they can have their communities away from the major capitalistic centers. This will also make your cabal a little, but not much they'll be able to do a whole hell of a lot about that. When this Renaissance period begins, this is actually quite interesting. The reason I hesitate to bring up the person is because because this is William Penn's incarnation at the moment. So I will not bring this up yet. It has been logged. I believe in this that it has been logged in this session as well. So I believe that when this pushback occurs, and I don't mean against AI, people have been honed in on that. It needs to be a pushback with creativity, with creative passion, with that burning fire. When that fire burns, there's nothing on this planet that can stop it. Not a computer, not a government, not an army. You can make an army look ridiculous in fiction. You can make any Nazi, any army, any fascist look completely ridiculous with the right set of words and the right set of images. Yes, your meme type stuff is good for that. And your political cartoons do this as well. And that is art as well. But a well-placed photograph of something in a particular form, in a particular way, it says a lot. A well-placed bit of ridiculousness at the right time and make any boastful world leader out there look far less intelligent than they claim. And then this actually brings out what they do not want the world to see, and that is the lesser form of themselves. Their arrogance won't allow anyone to see that other form, the more vulnerable form. Adding humor to this allows people to see their vulnerable forms. Either if you are playing practical jokes on a friend, or you're doing something weird with AI, or painting it, or drawing it, or writing it, or what have you. This is something that must be and reintegrated as of now.
Well, I think, again, the positive side of some of this AI is that, people have been so beaten down that in their creativity, it's like your creativity needs to be perfect, that can be admired by everybody, or you're nothing. And so one of the things I think that AI does is it automatically gives you a step up in the artistic skills and different things like that, that it adds onto it. It kind of does help people build their confidence, which people's confidences have been just so beaten down. So there really are, I think, a lot of positives in with the AI, as far as and people wouldn't think that. They think AI is going to take over the creativity. But from my perspective,
It'll add to it.
it's going to add to it, and it's going to make people feel like they can be more creative and produce something neat that people would like to see. And it's just going to be that it's going to be used in a proper inspirational way to help people feel that they can quickly get a story out. They could write a book, they could do whatever they wanted to do. And so people are going to attain some of those creative goals by using it. So I think, again, it's about everything. It's all in how you look at it and how you use it. I will think, to me, what's always been funny about this, and I do not know, maybe you can shed some light on this for me, of whether this has anything to do with, again, we used to call it the backstage secret space program, the alternative places. Usually when people are taken there, and we're talking by the millions of people, we're not talking a small group.
No.
So, the people that are talking about it now are just a tiny, tiny bit, and it's been going on for generations. So, they may not realize how many generations before them this was happening to.
Hmm.
But my point to it is that when you are taken back there, you are literally chemically, physically altered to be in obeyance. And so you really end up really truly being kind of a slave to the system.
No kind of about it.
Yes. And so what's weird to me is because it's almost like they're now in a place where they're somehow thinking that how they handled things there can be applied here on the real earth. And it can't be.
No.
One of the interesting dynamics to me is they may not want people getting in small remote groups living outside of big cities, but look what you're doing to the big cities, and who wants to be there for that? So you have them creating their Kabbalism land in some of these big cities with all the chaos and debauchery and all of the stuff going on. And then they're wondering why people are going to take and go here when they're the ones that are doing it, because they can't get people to be, what I would call the Stepford Wives kind of scenario, where everyone is uniformly walking the same way, because the only way they were able to do it over there was with all of the, chemicals and biological changes that they did to you when they took you over.
This should tell you something about all the events of the past several years. They want everything Stepford Wives, lockstep, all of this like they had there, the level of control. But with a mass crowd, you actually need consent for something like that. You see. So therefore, it is important not to give away that creative spark, not to actually wantonly give it away because find yourself in a poor situation or I don't want to say destitute. That is a wrong choice of words. I ran into several situations in my life in that same way as in my human form. But I won't get into that because the talk is, you are correct. You and your new friends are talking about gathering in places at times as well, just to be creative. That's the key. The key, yes, go to your bigger ones. Go to your bigger events, your conferences, your gathering. But what can you do in the in-between? Or supposed in-between? You gather, you become creative. Yes, you trade war stories back and forth, so the SSP people, there's nothing wrong with this. But when certain energies circle the toilet and people are convinced they have to reintegrate something here that is not completely reintegratable, and I must emphasize this, it is not completely reintegratable. You are only getting back this much of a vast tapestry. What happens with a vast tapestry? And it is part of you. It is a part of the tapestry that is seen by the whole, not by just this. Now, when that is applicable, when the totality of of that SSP tapestry is remembered by a particular person, that means that particular individual or a small gathering of them are meant to bring through a particular thing and staple it here in order to advance something, just like what I did with the arts. Like you said, millions of people were taken. Not all of them were meant to either reintegrate, or not all of them are meant to even remember it. If they remembered certain things, they couldn't necessarily be creative, could they? Or it comes through in a creative way, therefore it enters the arts. But if somebody believed it was real, they wouldn't imagine it, you see. So therefore it needs to be there. Now, those at those conferences and your buddies and everybody are waking up are meant to. I must emphasize this. People believe a forced awakening is what needs to be. Oh, you have to awake your neighbor. What does that sound like? Evangelism. You do not wish to evangelize. That's the scam. It just regurgitated from religion over to your SSP community. When this occurred, the two fused. When this occurred, this meant you could evangelize and awaken people's and activate people's memories because you felt it was the right thing to do for the whole. No. It is in order to, it is for the whole to inform, of course, to bring something out in somebody they didn't necessarily feel they had. But there are people in the room that were meant to be there to receive that information to begin with. But I mean an activation. You do not want to activate that side. This is a psyop. This stifles creativity unless within that activation there is a creative spark by which then something is grounded that is meant to be grounded. Remember what you said about mirroring past lives. Consider this as almost like a past life. If you're mirroring the wrong things, no. Right things, yes. Sometimes the right things could appear like the wrong things. Sometimes the nasty information must come out. It must, because it's hidden history. The truth always must surface. But it doesn't mean that it is literally every member of that society that it happens through. Some people carry a piece of that forward. Some people carry a narrative. Some people carry a truth intertwined, like you say, the yield. Some people bring truth forward that is decades ahead. And then some of that gets integrated into what is currently there and brings through a creative age forward because of this. The thing of it is, some of these people never know that that's what is being done. But I will backtrack one moment. Should you activate people in the room? No. Granted, are you asking their permission with them being in the room? I suppose you are. But to activate a super soldier side of them, that doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be able to grow muscles and rise up against your government. Because that's what's being said, to rise up. That doesn't always mean what people think it means. Yes, a warrior's great, but were you a great warrior back there? No. No. You were the epitome of non-creativity. A robot. A slave. In some cases, there was freedom and creativity. There was good that happened back there, too. Of course there was. With some of the going to some of the other kind planets and stuff like that. And there was also, like, he encountered the Lonulosians, for instance. Wonderful. There were wonderful creative things that happened in certain instances where the soul deviated over. And there are instances where this version of himself was also out there in good situations, and you too. But what people think they're accessing is that adventure, that those good things, or even the extreme past, that some good things happen. They're just remembering things and why they needed to be here, like with the animals and Edward Hicks and them. They're accessing this little bit because it was so emotionally extreme that it came forward. But also, don't you think it's a little odd that so many of these negative things and negatively inspired horror shows came out all at once? It should, you would think, for those that wish this to stay secret, it would. But yes, truth comes out and nothing can be nothing be hidden, like he said before. But don't you think that this is coming out in a weird way? Yes, it is bound to come out completely because truth is truth. But how can I put this? If it is not expressed properly, it constantly circles the toilet. If it is expressed through art and a fusion through creativity, it can be boundless. It has that filter. It can make a point about what happened there. Yes, horrible things should be talked about. And people should have those support groups. The SSP should have those support groups. Absolutely 100% wonderful thing. But should the toilet be circled or should the toilet be flushed?
And I think that's a good point because, people, I think, want to believe, and I get it, that somehow you're smarter than those that were in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to help people understand that they knew all this was going to occur. And so you're going to have well-placed shows and well-placed dramas and well-placed things for people to look at that will have them maybe have a familiarity to it.
Absolutely.
But what they're watching is still going to try to drive them to a particular means. So it's like, how do I use the fact that you are remembered now against you in a way that is good for me, the bad guy, let's just say, and you are still none the wiser. And I'm just still going to use your energy that you are now generating and or unfortunately getting caught into a cycle because they are putting out all these drama shows, right, that are having problems, and you remember the next problem and the next one and the next drama and the next drama. That's what we mean by circling the toilet.
It doesn't mean that the information is not increasingly or incredibly valuable. Of course it is. Because it's no different than having a monument to a bad historical time. You need to remember these things.
Right.
But when it constantly loops, that's
Yes.
bad.
It is, because again, you don't realize that they knew that people were going to expand and these memories were going to come out. So that question for them has been planned out for many years now. How are we still going to control that?
Yeah.
How are we going to still keep people from expanding past it?
Yes.
Well, we're going to try everything we can to get them to not expand past it.
Yes.
Because how many, years do you need to know that you were a part of something before you realize, maybe I need to move on to something else instead of dwelling on some of this stuff over here. Yes, I agree with everything that you just said about the support system and about,
Must occur, yeah.
and the importance of healing. I don't think people realize that some of them, I hate to say this, I don't know an easier way to say this, that some people coming out of the programs where they knew that people were going to awaken were programmed so that they could be themselves, the arsonist and the fireman, all rolled into one to keep it going.
Common program.
And so it's a very common program that's used all the time.
Mother programs are as well. Well, they'll get you to be compassionate to something that you probably should not be.
Right.
And father programs too.
Right. And I can believe that. Absolutely. Because they're going to really take the basics of human. And one of them is the compassion and, the wantingness of people to be able to still grow and expand. And so you're going to have compassion and understanding. And that it in itself can be when you need to let go.
Yes. And also bear in mind, you could have come from somewhere else and are forgetting things. Now, not necessarily past lives. You could have literally come from somewhere else, and the SSP was the distortion. You could have come from somewhere else entirely, and even another time entirely, and another timeline entirely. I mean, yeah, you jump timelines. That's not quite what I mean. Uh, and another dimension somewhere else. Your connection to spirit is being distorted because they're screwing with your receptivity to it, which is important to realize. When you realize this, that cycle begins to break and crack and really shatter. But I'm talking about physically. This version of you could have come from somewhere else. You just forgot because you went from one frequency to another, and you just kind of didn't get left behind per se, but just forgot how to get home again. And this happens as well. This happened when your David Bowie mentioned this, where he was the same in that way. I won't go into that too much. But say then you were thrown into the SSP, or some people got thrown into vices like his character in the movie and all that. But with this, say you got thrown to the SSP, but you really came from somewhere else. This, remembering this, since it was so vast, even 50, 60 years. The other one was longer. So, how do they get people to not connect to something really awesome? That was the main purpose, other than them being a slave in that, to get them to find, what was that, a fake hero protocol over here? Well, you were a hero here. You got rid of this and did that. Yeah, were there good things that happened? Certain things because of it. Did good things happen because of certain evils happening? Absolutely, there were things that changed and still are continuing to do so. But again, distortion, reality, and also reality. Even though you call this real life, of course, distortion. Some of the series of unfortunate events that happen here, feeling disconnect, spirit. You see?
Right. And again,
Spirit's actually all around. It's not up. It's never was up. It's everything everywhere all at once. So yeah.
right. And the big effort for humanity right now is to learn how to grow an organic unity while William Penn has come back in to continue his work. Why, Edward Hicks is talking to us and how in order to grow a unity, people must be creative, because part of we will have to be creative in order to grow the unity and understand each other and not do things the same old way necessarily. That doesn't mean having a fundamental baseline of right and wrong. That's not what we're talking about. But there's been so much over my lifetime that's been done to teach everybody how to not unify, that people think that then we can't unless we agree 100%. And that's a big problem.
Nope.
I keep saying it over and over again that even if nobody knew anything about disclosure, and a lot of people are like, well, I can't talk to my family. I'm like, really? You guys can't think of things that you all agree upon at all? How children are treated, proper education of people, how, are the elderly taken care of? Is medication too expensive? You can't think of anything to unify over where you could say you would all agree, I don't want it to be this way and I want it to go in a different direction. Please. Of course, worldwide now, there are a lot of basics that we can all agree upon to be able to start this process. You don't have to get them to believe all of the other stuff that you believe to start to create important unities on these other subject matters. But to try and tie this back into Dreamtime, because this is where we all started.
Well, some of this comes up in Dreamtime because it's in the subconscious and it loops, you see. It can interfere with dreams, or if it's something you must look at, by all means. Sometimes you do have to look in the darkest corners to bring out more of what needs to heal. A lot of times that's true. So just with that, there's an extra little bit of a hiccup or a thorn attached to that rose vine. But it's one of those every rose has its thorns kind of thing. But with this, the Dreamtime, your creative mind, your creative self. Yes, I know the third eye is part of the creativity, so is your sacral. This is what I evidently added in when I created all the Naked Lady art, because it's both. As above, so is below. So to speak. But you must know that things coming through here, either a distortion, trying to get you to interfere, or get you to interfere with you, or and stifle your creativity, or your dark night of the soul needs to be rectified, which some of the SSP falls under that, or your creative passion is coming through in ways even that you might not understand. Sometimes it might seem something horrible, and then you've written and or painted about it, or taken pictures about it, or worked with the AI, or done something that you've seen something, heard something, felt something there that's supposed to be here. There's the supposed to be category right here as well that people are ignoring because they're scattering all of it everywhere. It's not necessarily everything everywhere all at once in this case. You're taking all of it and smearing it around. Sometimes there's like something here that is supposed to be said, supposed to be done, supposed to be felt, supposed to be seen. That is not being seen, felt, heard, tasted, whatever. And also food is another thing. People put it into the food as well. Or they've done the creativity with the food. Like I was around, believe it or not, when you guys were watching a few of those Halloweeny cook shows a minute. Even though you don't really have an interest in that, it's more of it was more like presenting something creative, even in spurts like that. Where even in that area, even if it's basic, how can I put this? Basic talents or basic skills that are not being accessed. That could, for him, it was driving and cooking. For myself, it was more like some day-to-day things, like interacting with people in certain ways, things of that nature. Some things are drawn away from or atrophy a little bit. That's normal in cases of either lack of creativity and stifling or extreme creativity. You're focused on a thing. Whatever you lose into that moment of non-time is the creative thing. Whatever you feel time is lost from is the stagnation.
So, which is really a great, I'm glad you said that. That's really wonderful way for you to start looking at things right now. If you get into non-time and whatever you do, if you're not looking at it as like, boy, I was so unproductive, and you're actually like, wow, look what I accomplished. That's a good place to be, no matter what it was that you actually did, I think is really what you're saying, versus, feeling like, boy, I didn't accomplish anything, what a waste of time or whatever. But a lot of times people can do things that are just so simple, but be in the current present moment and feel like they got really accomplished with stuff. And that's how you want to feel, even if you feel it's kind of the humdrum of life, that you're not doing something grand, but you are doing what you should be doing in those moments of that type of non-time.
Of course. That's exactly it. If it's something that you would say makes your heart sing, great. If it's not, what are you doing wrong? Right. Sometimes you feel you're doing something out of obligation, not necessarily creative passion.
Right. And so it is an interesting challenge, because I think right now, let's just say in the regular working world, where people, are questioning, am I doing this to keep the roof over my head? Or is there something about it that I kind of am happy to be involved in it? And people are questioning that all the time.
Every day, every moment of every day.
Right. And so, one of the challenges, that I think people have to ask themselves honestly is, first of all, what would you do if you didn't have to work? And a lot of people would be like, they wouldn't have a clue in the world what they do with themselves. They just sit and watch TV. But then others, maybe they would find another spark. But then some people have to realize, what? I do like going to work. I do like interacting with people. I do like the contribution that I'm making.
Sometimes it can help ground you in ways that you've thought you've lost.
True. I like to be a part of a team. I like the contribution that the team is doing. I like to be there as a support system to other people. I actually like these kinds of things. I like, as you get older, I like the fact of younger generations needing help, and I can help mentor. And so again, you would be, probably people would be surprised that again, not everybody would be thriving if they just quit their jobs and walked away. They really wouldn't, because the interaction with other people
must be there.
Yeah, it must be there, number one. And again, in the times that we are right now, where I think for a lot of souls that the goal is, how do we build a great unity of common whatever, where people are feeling good about what they're doing, feeling like for a lot of them they're making some sort of positive contribution to a team. It's actually important now. People actually want to feel, I think, in contrast to what happened during the pandemic, where people realized, oh my God, when I'm so isolated, it was good for about 3 days. And then it's like, get me out of here. And now
Yes.
realizing that, we are meant to grow, for most people, for the vast majority of people, be a part of something to grow an organic unity. And again, to use our imagination center to grow past it and to grow past restraints, to look at how things are done and how can we not do it necessarily the same old way. How can we reimagine to make something work better for the times, better for the people, with more of a true benevolence towards human beings and humanity behind it. And so you need to have that creativity to bust out of the boxes that have been tried to put around you in your thinking in order to expand and make these things happen. And again, as we said about dream time, the dream time area, whether you can remember it or not, you are busy as a soul working out some of these things, just as well. So I am going to directly ask this question because, like I said, I asked it before in the beginning. It sounds like you guys are here because you feel you need to inspire a little bit people, because they are in such the doldrums, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Yes.
And so, but you do feel that the dawn is coming. And so it's an interesting perspective of, getting people, try to get them re-energized to do things. So I'm just curious, again, from your perspective, where we are in this current present moment of this growth process for humanity. What are you really seeing?
Everyone's on the verge, like I said, of a renaissance period, and Edward was reiterating the thing, or iterating it as well. You're on the verge of this particular changeover. It's already begun. It's already begun in places. People focus on the fact that, oh, we need to have a revolution against the government, or stop, this whole Civil War process from starting, or World War III starting, trying to stop that. What stops these things? And not paying attention to the narrative. They're like, how do we stop this narrative? Ignore it. Don't ignore the actions of those freaks that created it. By all means, do not ignore them. Ignore what they're creating. Don't ignore them. Because if you ignore them loudly enough, they might do something really bad. Of course you have to defend. Of course you have to prepare. That these are all smart things to do. If you don't, you're just as big a dummy as they are. But they're so arrogant. They're not going to think in creative terms. They can't. People have forgotten this, and he forgot this for a time too, because times where he heard these phrases uttered, it was at times that he felt was during a psyops period. Wrong. It was being reiterated because of an impending psyop. So everyone, you must understand that you're on the verge of a change, but that's inward. When this occurs, and you've heard this enough, and I know ad nauseum, the whole shadow work thing, but pay attention to what's going on in your outer world, of course. Don't get sucked into this. Go into your times where you are creative and even funny. And like you say, watching cat videos. But in this has to come from you. This must come from you, no matter what form that takes, no matter what form that expresses, no matter where that expresses. This must be the driving force. But if push comes to shove, of course, if you call out the bad guy's narrative, of course, they would use force. If they would ever do this, of course, you have to put your sword in the ground. but do so beforehand in a way that sparks this creativity in others. I was not necessarily a proponent of violent actions, but at the same time, defensive ones are key in the right place, just like art is key when well placed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, again, please believe me, you are not here by accident at this current present moment in time. See yourself as really more of who you are. You're working, probably all of us, 24/7 on the soul side of things, whether you remember it or not.
Your own oversoul is too, even though sometimes it brings in some garbage from other timelines that some probably should not. Still, it's still working.
It's still working. You're still working. And again, give your energies to your co-creative passions, as well as do not give energies to things you don't want to be. So, and that's really one of the biggest keys right now. I agree with you. I think a lot of people are starting to realize I'm much better off if I just keep the TV off. And you know what I mean. We like to enjoy some old shows. We're into watching, going back and taking a moment to watch like all the Star Trek. We're into Deep Space Nine now to really remember the story and the growth of how the Star Trek and all of the different things that were brought up from there. We were enjoying that. But in general, to not give too much energy to the dramas that they want to suck you into, as far as, let's say, news and different things like that, but spend all your time.
Waves come through the news, so you must avoid sometimes, yes.
You must avoid it, and know that if you don't want it to be, and we collectively don't want it to be, it will not be. It's just kind of that simple. And so understand that about yourself, that you do have that kind of power within you. And when it coalesces with most people who are very much like-minded like yourself with what they want to see and don't see, then that energy coalesces and it makes a huge difference. So just know that if you feel you've had any oppression during your dream time at all, you wake up and you're not sure, again, simply revoke any agreements you made in dream time. Just say, I revoke any agreements I made in dream time. Cover yourself.
With malicious being intervened.
Yes. And so just do these types of simple things if you think that could have occurred, and understand that, again, just like with certain memories of past lives or other experiences, in your dream time, you don't have to remember it all. You really don't. Everything's working as it should be. And just when things come up, at times, maybe there are things that need to be looked at a little bit closely if you feel they're interfering in your life. But other than that, just keep moving forward, learning how to co-create properly, learning how to unify in an organic way, and just keep doing what you're doing, and know that you are important as far as being here right now, right at this current present moment, and be here. Don't drift off out there. Ground yourself to here right now. Your energies are needed.
Absolutely well said. I have nothing further other than whatever that creative spark is, that is you, become that. Don't make life difficult for others just because you have seemingly forgotten something. Doesn't mean you need to let make the next person also forget it by regurgitating traumas. But if you have something to deal with in that deep, dark area, also do it. If it sparks creativity, all the better. So I will leave you now. I know it has been a while since I have been around, or seemingly been around, but I have come and went, and not been seen or heard. No, because of some of the distortions, but that's my point. Some distortions prevented that connection. So I had to be a little louder, but that's okay too. All right. So thank you, everybody. Yeah, it has been, seemingly it has been a while since Frank Frazetta was around. So I did notice that every now and again I will try on like the AI program. I tried to get the AI program to use his art style sometimes on there, and you can do it. It does know what art styles you mean. He's been inserted into the canon of artists, obviously. One of the master artists. You can put Rodin, Van Gogh, all of them through their Frazetta, all of them. So in there. He's been inserted in there, rightfully so. I heard. He's been. He goes. Does this make me a saint? I've been canonized. It's yes, Saint Frazetta. Yes, Saint Frank Frazetta of I don't know what to end that with, but yeah, I can see a project coming up for that. But funny, he said. But okay, he goes. That's what I'm talking about, right there. And he goes, exactly what just happened. No matter how retarded he said something like that is, he goes, that's exactly what he's talking about. So, all right, I think that they were good. Thank you both, Edward and Frank. So that's actually pretty cool. So anything else, Joanna, before we take it out?
Nope,
Uh,
I'm glad they came in. They wanted to inspire people a little bit and glad they were here.
All right. And I must say this Samhain period has been rough. Like so by the time you see this, it's done. But if anybody encountered anything rough during the Halloween season, let us know that if this was felt rougher than most. So I just feel that it has been. I normally like Halloween. It has not been kind to the Halloween season has not been kind to me this time. So, and also they're saying a lot of the creativity will be enhanced by this time of year and start to counteract a lot of the confusion and chaos during that because there's so many doorways open, things of this nature from all areas. Even the bad guys have a hard time. Some do, some don't. I said, okay, you can cut through it, and spells are more powerful, and so is creativity. That's what they wanted to emphasize. The winter solstice as well. So if you see this around the Christmas time, no, that's also a hot spot time of the year as well. Powerful PowerPoint. So I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye bye now.